dreams of doorways. The small crowd of men trapped in his head watch his subconscious skies, which darken and moil like advancing storm clouds. Images ghost across a screen that isn't there. It exists in a realm that isn't a place. When David's sleep deepens and the rumbles of REM begin, the men place bets on whether and when the next portal will open. It'll be their only chance to get out. Had anyone told them their first or second dates would end like this, going to sleep next to an otherwise average-looking Australian financial analyst, maybe 5'11", getting a little thick around the waist from his expatriate alcohol intake, and waking up in one of the more articulate prisoners called a cavern with curtains? They'd have bellowed with laughter and maybe had another drink. David, stressed out and paranoid as political violence sends his adopted city into convulsions, has been having nightmares. The most memorable of these culminated in a thriller-style chase through a haunted house, and the stampede inside of his mind rattled the walls. No one knows how many mental inmates got away that night, as some have gone silent. Haunted houses are awful, but at least they have doors. Sometimes the ghosts and monsters are really only pointing the way to the nearest exit. One of the local Hong Kong guys, a securities manager named Marco, he'd gone to Wharton, but he now lives back in Shotton with his family. He actually didn't mind being here. What did I have on the outside, he asks the incarcerated phantoms around him. I had enough to buy my own flat, even at these prices, but my parents didn't want me to leave until I got married. Whenever anyone hinted that I might be gay, my grandmother went to bed for 2 days. I was looking for jobs in Brazil, for fuck's sake, or Angola, anywhere but Hong Kong. Marco always joins the rest running when a portal appears, but he always hangs back, dubious where David's infrastructure might take him. What if he ends up in the Tunisian desert, or worse, under territory controlled by ISIS, the GOP, or the UKIP? Tonight's entertainment turns out to be a double feature. David has been under stress lately, and if he has another haunted house dream, the collective fear is an endless maze of hallways, doors that only open inward. In the dark cinema, in the skies of David's head, the first dreams are flickering to life. He's giving a speech in a vast auditorium. Every member of the audience is asleep. The louder he talks, the louder they snore. He taps the microphone to wake them. The feedback whine, it gets the same. He taps the microphone to wake the microphone. The feedback whine gets the same lack of reaction as the jokes that crashed after takeoff. The presentation dream begins to blur at the edges. Rows disappear from the back of the auditorium. Mists roll in. The scene darkens like the lights in the cinema that this isn't. These men are immersed in this. Their existence is parlous and porous. They've sublimed. As a subtle tsunami of blackness rolls in, they argue. Some, like Marco, want to hunker down and wait this out. Others are barging towards the fading set of doors, still faintly visible at the horizons of David's dream state. His disaster of a lecture is over. Perhaps their imprisonment can finally end as well. One or two might make it, but most will crash into the same barrier that keeps them here. The darkness surrounds them, pulsing like living brain matter. In this peculiar state of pseudo-existence, they have no need to breathe. Yet they can sense an airless interim before the second act of the night's entertainment. This time, it's the maze again, an endless tangle of corridors and cul-de-sacs. In the distance, the sound of openings and closings taunts them all. Hinges squeak like squadrons of bats. Even Marco joins the charge. In the shadows, he can't see who he's crashing into. A disembodied hand pulls him at his shirt he imagines he's wearing, pulling him back. Someone clutches at his shoulder, trying to fling him down to this metaphor for a floor. In the mad scrum, several guys fall and get trampled, but Marco keeps his feet. A door opens ahead of him. Sunlight on the other side. It's a kiss, a promise, a temptation, a light at the end of the tunnel. It's everything in the whole goddamn universe. He flings himself through it and lands, panting, on a dark expanse of grass. He's three-dimensional again, wearing the same jeans and t-shirt he wore the night he met David. Next to him there are three young men who seem familiar, but whose names he can't recall now that he has to connect them with tangible reality, tangible humanity. In the distance he hears shouting, on the wind an acrid smell he can't identify. What the fuck, he asks. This looks like a park in Hong Kong. Benches with armrests to prevent rough sleeping, too many kiosks and raised planters, too much concrete, not enough nature. How long were you in there? One of them asks him. No idea, Marco replies. Pretty long, apparently. It's a different city now, the man replies. That is the second strangest night of Marco's life. He walks through a bewilderment of tents and yellow umbrellas, watches clashes with riot-armed police, dodges truncheons, tear gas and pepper spray taint the air, batons swing, scalps split. One night of violence just bleeds into the next. Learning the date leads to paralysis. It's been 2 years. He's been gone 2 years. His grieving relatives have sold his home, and there's a gravestone that bears his name on a hillside in Yunlong. Regardless, the people in the tents welcome him. Here, you don't need an identity, just an allegiance. Every night, he stops by the bar where he met David, and one night, when the violence has subsided, there he is. Haven't we met before? David asks. A few years ago, maybe. I still remember you, Marco says. Interesting times in Hong Kong, aren't they? David asks. He's not a bad-looking guy, Marco thinks. A dark chorus of sirens wail in the distance, and a helicopter flies low overhead. Here, in Central, they're within walking distance of the barricades. The tanks haven't rolled down Nathan Road yet, but it seems naive to rule this out. Interesting times indeed, Marco says. What does he have to go back to? A bedroom his family's maid now inhabits? A job one of his junior colleagues has taken over? A bank account his parents closed and appropriated? A circle of friends who've mourned and moved on? If he had to come back to reality post-mortem and penniless, he picked the perfect place and time to do it. Can I buy you a drink? Marco asks. David smiles.